What is up, beautiful people? Welcome once again to HN Clothings. Welcome to another wonderful video. In this video, we're going to learn how to create structures in corset dresses, gowns, tops, and most of the trending styles we've been seeing recently. Okay, so we are going to look at two ways to create the structure. This tutorial is very simplified, broken down, and it gives you all the easy steps, all the techniques you need to make this work for you. So if this is something you're interested in, please do keep on watching and let's dive right in. To create structures in our corset tops, dresses, or blouses, we need these ingredients to make it work. So right over here, I have the fabrics I'm going to be using. This is crepe. You can use whatever kind of fabric you want. This is like crepe. This is sequin, and this is velvet. So we can try our hands on any of these fabrics. And then I'm going to be teaching you two ways to create the structure. First way, we'll be using just these two ingredients, which is our hairstay. This is what a hairstay looks like. It has one side that fuses and the other side doesn't fuse, and it's cloth like soft. This is hairstay. So the first way, we'll be using hairstay and then a crinoline. My crinoline is about 3 inches wide. I'll use that for the first structure. And then for the second structure, you're still going to use hairstay. The purpose of a hairstay is just to stabilize the fabric. Then we'll use plastic bones and then peplum stay. For the peplum stay, these are kind of like more rigid than the hairstay, which is cloth like and soft. I have like three different types of peplum stay. I have this one. This one is gives a kind of bouncy um, trampoline feel. This one is all over the place. You can see how it even is. It's even more structured, right? And then we have this one takes the shape of like a paper stay, but it's thicker than the paper stay, more like a collar stay, right? So all this can be used for your peplum stay. You can choose whichever one you have available to you. So let's start with the first structure. That's the first design. First things first, you get the fabric you're going to be using. We're going to use this sequin fabric, and then you measure how wide your crinoline is. Remember that crinoline comes in different sizes, so you need to determine the kind of structure you want to go for. If it's something bold, go for a wider crinoline. Then when you measure from top to here, we have 3 inches here. This is another crinoline. This one is a 1 inch wide crinoline. Of course, you can't go for this. You have to use something wider. So on the fabric, you are going to measure how wide you want this structure to be. Okay, so you measure how long you want this structure to be. I'm just using this as a sample, but I have about 34 inches long, and then the width should be whatever you have as your crinoline, then add the sewing allowance you're going to be putting. So you can make this about 3.5 to 4 inches wide on fold. Remember, it's on fold. Okay, so when you open it up, you should be having either 7 to 8 inches long. What we'll do now is to take this, get our hairstay, and then fuse the hairstay on this. We want to give structure and stability to this first of all, so that it's not just moving all over the place before we go on to do the next steps. Now that this has been fused with your hairstay, the next thing is to take your crinoline and place that. You need to cut the length of what you have as your on your fabric, leaving about half an inch at the top and half an inch at the bottom. So checking it out, this is about what I have. So you are going to make it, you can double or even triple this structure. Now what we are going to do is make sure you iron this down so that it stays down, because you see that it's folding and everything. So by the time it's staying down, you go to your sewing machine and stitch this together so it becomes one piece. And then you use a part of this fabric to turn over this part, because this part is actually very hard and prickly. That means it can actually pierce through and cause discomfort. So you want to turn it with this fabric. Okay, just get a scrap piece and do that for both ends, and then just hold this together in place. So let's quickly do that. All right, so this is what you're going to be having after sewing up this part and joining the two together. You now have more structure and bounce. So what we're going to do next is to take this to a sewing machine and sew up this part. Sew one side close and then sew the other part close, leaving just one part where you can turn it in. Okay, this is such that you'll be able to put this into that channel, because if we were going to be placing this here on the right side, closing it up and sewing, it's going to create, like, it won't be easy to sew, because you may eventually, without knowing, sew on this crinoline and then it won't be as pleasing as you want it to. So how to avoid that will be to just sew this thing closed, palm, palm, and leave this opening, turn it inside out and put in your crinoline. So let's do that quickly. Okay, so after sewing, this is what you have, and then you're just going to flip it inside out. Make sure you trim. If you have bulk here, trim it so that you reduce the bulk. All right, now let us infuse this. To infuse this, you can fold it this way so that it goes in. Awesome, so we have it now properly put in. At this stage, you can decide to either gather on both sides and use that for your structure, or you turn it in this way and then give it a good finish. So I'll just go and sew this way, palm on it, and then we'll have our first structure ready. Let me sew this close and we'll see how it looks in just a minute. All right, so here's what we have. The first structure designed to be, you can place it however you want to on your fabric. The only thing I would suggest is make sure your crinoline is tripled, double, to give it more structure. If you are using a heavyweight fabric, like if you're just using satin, maybe bridal satin or something of that nature, then just doubling it is fine. So this is how, just freestyle with however you want it to be. It was just pinned into place. Okay, so here is what the first crinoline structure looks like. So it was coming from the waist right up onto the back. Let's move over to the next structured design. All right, guys, so for style number two, I'm going to be using velvet to illustrate how to go about this style. Okay, I have gone ahead to fuse the hairstay to my velvet fabric. I already explained why we are using hairstay to give it stability. Naturally, velvet stretches, but because we already have hairstay on it, it has restricted whatever form of stretch this would have been getting. I hope you get the gist. So same thing here. You have to cut two pieces of this velvet and infuse each of the pieces with your hairstay. Let me tell you how long and how wide I have here. So this is about 35 inches long and 6 inches wide. 35 inches long, 6 inches wide. That's what we're going to be using. So you also want to cut your peplum stay, okay, to that same dimension, using the same dimension, 35 inches long and 6 inches wide. I would also advise that you kind of use a fabric that is not as weighty as velvet. If you're going to be using velvet, then use a more structured peplum stay, okay, so that it stands and it will not fall, right? So what we're going to do next is to put in our sewing allowance, because what we want to do now, you're going to be placing this peplum stay on. You're not fusing the peplum stay, you're only going to fuse the hair stay to the velvet. You're going to place the peplum stay on your fabric, on one of the fabrics this way, and then you're going to mark the sewing allowance to join the peplum stay on this interfacing. So I'll use half an inch to sew it down. So after marking the half an inch on both sides, then you are going to take your bones. Now there are different width to this bone. Okay, the bone I have here with me is 5 millimeters. 5 millimeters means 0.5 centimeter. That's how wide this bone is. There are other sizes, so depending on the kind of bone you have, that is now going to be the channel you're going to create. You need to create a channel to put in this bone. So I will sew half an inch for my sewing allowance to sew this peplum stay to this fabric. Then after then, I'm going to make a channel on this fabric here, such that I can slot in the bone into that channel. I hope you get the gist. All right, so we have created the channels for this particular structured design. You can see that this channel is actually bigger than the bones, and my intention is to put two of these bones in one channel. Why am I putting it? Because it's not thick enough and it may not be able to give the structure I want. Okay, if you have a wider bone, then just create the channel for that bone, bearing in mind that you should just leave a little room for ease there. So what we're going to do is take our file this into place, like make it smoother, and then just feed it in. Let's take this other one. You're going to place it right side on right side, and then you're just going to sew that sewing allowance. That's this one here, not this channel oh. This sewing allowance that you attach the peplum stain to the velvet fabric. That's where you're just going to sew on both sides, and then you close up one end so that you can turn it inside out from the other end. So let's do all of that and come back to see what it looks like in a jiffy. All right, so we have turned this inside out. You want to make sure that everything is done pretty this way. And then what we're going to do now is to take our bones. I have the bones already measured to the length of this. I'm going to be doubling the bones for each of the channels because of how wide I left the channel. Okay, so I'll just put the bones through here. Then let's put the double bones for channel 2. It's going in between the fused velvet and the peplum stay. So what we're going to do now is to close up this part, right? You just fold it in this way, push the bone out of the way, fold it in, and so it's closed. So let me quickly do that and we see that in just a jiffy. All right, guys, so this is the end result of style number 2. Style number 2 has this more structure. The boning is giving it the lift, okay? And you can see how it looks all the way to the back. You can freestyle with however you want to place this structure, wherever you want to place it, and just work your way around it. At least it's just going to give it that baba boom and glam. Okay, so you can use embellishments to cover up all these places and we are good to go. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Let me know if this was helpful and helped demystify this particular structured design using both crinoline and plastic bones. Okay, so till we see in the next tutorial, stay safe. God bless you all. Please do not forget to subscribe. Give me a huge thumbs up. And till we see in the next tutorial, bye.